we're in Trafalgar Square. I'm making a documentary for Channel 4 about the future of climate protesting. Is it working? If it isn't working, what are we going to do? Because we need to find a solution, basically. And is protest a part of that solution? Where should we go? How disruptive do we have to be? Are we looking at, generating, mass public protest? Or do we have to go even further and direct violence at property, fossil fuel infrastructure? So it's an important question, a challenging question. And, I want to see it from the front line. So I've come down to this Just Stop Oil protest. They've just finished. They were in the Strand. I guess they were on the road for about 15, maybe 20 minutes before the police decided that the protest was too disruptive. And they issued what they call a Section 12. This gives them the capacity to ask the protesters to leave the road. If they don't, they can arrest them under the Public Order Act. As it was all very amicable. The police said, would you leave? And everyone stepped out of the road, and they're just behind me now regrouping, thinking about what to do next.
What's your view of the direct action groups like Just Stop Oil are taking? In this case, it was a slow march right down the Strand, but in other instances, it has been more disruptive.
Well, look, a few weeks ago, I was here in London at a rally called The Big One, organised by Extinction Rebellion and lots of others. And there were 60,000 people here in London. It was a very friendly atmosphere, family friendly. We're playing birdsong, fancy dress, colourful banners. It was entry-level activism. 60,000 people in London got no media attention at all. Nothing on the mainstream media websites. The Times, I think, were the only people that gave it any space. As soon as the disruption, you and I are having a conversation. There seems to be a direct link between disruption and getting media attention. Why do we want the media attention? Because we need it to tell the story. That's what it's about. That's why people are throwing soup over famous paintings. They want the opportunity to say we're in deep shit and we need to get out of it. And the way out of it is to stop exploiting fossil fuels. And that has to happen far more rapidly than our governments are making it happen now.
The government's passed quite a good deal of legislation in relation to protest, cracking down on the right to protest, whether it's something that's taken a view to cause nuisance, literally, really infringing on civil liberties, to be quite frank. They seem to be legislating more about that than they are in relation to the climate crisis. I mean, what's your view of the anti-protest legislation that's been passed and what it says about the government's attitude towards the issues?
I like most people, I'm horrified by the anti-protest legislation. It seems to be directed specifically at environmental protesters. There's no question of that. And there's been leaks from government which suggest that's the case. We're seeing, a tightening of the laws that's making it increasingly difficult to protest peacefully. Our democratic right that we should all have as citizens in a so-called democratic country. But when you're getting people arrested for wearing a T-shirt, I feel that we're in deep, deep trouble. And let's be really clear. If you are arrested for wearing a T-shirt which is complaining about climate breakdown now, what will it be tomorrow? Because if you don't sympathise or understand the need to protest about the climate, maybe you'll be protesting about education or health or, the price of food. It could be anything. Gender rights, religion, race, equality. One day you're going to end up with the wrong T-shirt on and you're just going to get arrested. It won't stop with climate protests. So we really have to push back against this public order bill. There's no question about that. The problem is also that, I'm afraid that it's going to scare people off the streets because we do need lots of people coming out and saying we've got to take action. But if they're too scared of getting arrested, and let's face it, we sympathise with that. Not everyone is ever going to be comfortable with being arrested, let alone incarcerated. Then that's going to make it, that's mission accomplished for those that want to shut the protests down. And that can't happen. The world's on fire. We've got to put that fire out. And that means that our governments need to take action. So we need to be able to ask them to take action. And that's what's happening today.
Just finally, Chris, a word for the commuters, the drivers, the workers who are inconvenienced by this protest, some of whom I'm sure are pretty angry about what's just happened.
Yeah.
And what's your message for them?
We all sympathise with the disruption that this causes. The fact that you might be late for work, taking your kids to school. Stories of ambulances being blocked are, I think, grossly exaggerated by some of the media. whenever there's a situation of crisis like that, these guys let people through. On every occasion, I've seen that happening personally. There's no doubt about that. But look, what is an inconvenience of 5 or 10 minutes for you today is nothing compared to the inconvenience that's being felt as I speak in the global south, where, temperatures are hitting record highs. People are dying of thirst, they're dying of hunger, they're migrating from one part of the world to another. In other parts of the world, Alberta at the moment, huge swathes of Alberta in Canada are on fire. It's damaging massive tracts of important ecosystems. It's burning people's houses, ruining their business, their education. Climate change is hurting those people more than it's hurting a 5-minute delay in London. This is a very minor inconvenience compared to what's already being suffered by some, and we will be suffering soon. And the one message I have to all of those who are inconvenienced is that you clearly may not agree with the methods of people like Just Stop Oil, but please stop for just a moment and think about what motivates them. What's made them get out of bed, come here, be alienated by people, perhaps like yourself, get shouted at, potentially get arrested, potentially get locked up or in prison. What's motivated them to do that? Fear. Fear for all of our futures. Please think before you shoot the messengers.